ervaring.
Hello! We are Scottish travel bloggers Farah McGann, and we are currently in a Travellers Autobarn Cougar camper van in the Great Ocean Road in Australia. We are in a free campsite right now that has a beautiful view and flush toilets. So
Godsend.
So this video today is to tell you how to find these hidden gems, free campsites in any campsites, because it can be probably one of the most nerve-wracking things.
Is finding campsites, but you'd be surprised how easy it is
Yep.
to actually do. So the first method that we use to find campsites, and probably the most common method these days, is your mobile phone. There's loads of apps available for your phone to be able to find good campsites. So the three apps that we mainly use are Campermate, Travellers Autobarn app, and Wikicamps. So the Campermate app and the Travellers Autobarn app are very similar. The only difference I would say with the Travellers Autobarn app is it has more specific information related to Travellers Autobarn. So if you're hiring with them, I would definitely recommend using the Travellers Autobarn app. It's got like the contact details, and if anything goes wrong, you can just one tap. So it's a much easier way to use it. But if you're not, feel free to use Campermate. So I'll only discuss the features of one because they're basically exactly the same. So the features that we really like, the free one is green colour coded, the low cost one is blue colour coded, or like the main big tourist and holiday parks are usually a purple colour, which are obviously more expensive. This is really handy when you're trying to find a campsite because obviously you've got a base to go on. So everything is shown on a map. You can press the button and you will zoom straight into your location and you can see campsites round about you. There is also a feature that will show you deals round about you on that time, so if you were struggling for a campsite you might get a notification saying there's a deal in your area.
They're random.
They're
You
random,
can't
yeah, you
even
can't
set
control
up.
them.
Just now and again you'll get a deal.
It's quite useful. Other things that the app's useful for as well is not just campsites. You can find loads of other things like public toilets, dumping stations if you're in a bigger motorhome, if you have a tank. When we were in New Zealand we did have a tank in the camper van and we emptied it.
You can only empty it in certain places, so it was good that the app
Yeah,
told
showed
you where they were.
Yeah, and it also shows you where there's maybe drinking water available if you need to fill up any tanks or any water bottle. There's also a review section on each of the campsites, so when you click on the campsite you can go to reviews and you can see other people's reviews of that campsite. Another useful feature is it also has contact details on there, so if you need to contact the campsite you can just contact them directly from the app, and you can also press the directions button and get directions from wherever you're at to the campsite. We usually book our campsites
On the day.
depending on
Yeah.
where we're going. If we know, in Australia it's been a lot more difficult because at the weekends and during school holidays it's a lot busier than when we were in New Zealand. But I would say that the majority you can book on the day, or you will find one in the area on the day. Another useful feature of the Campermate app is that you can actually download maps offline. So if you're connected to Wi-Fi on say day one, or before you even get to Australia or New Zealand, you could just download all the maps offline and then you can get directions to any campsite on that map and also see all the campsites on the map. You can also favourite different campsites, so you could
Plan ahead.
Plan ahead, yeah. If you
like us.
yeah, if you know what you know where you're going to be, you can favourite a load of campsites on there, and then you can also filter by those favourites, so it will only show you the favourites on the app. It's a really useful feature.
So unlike those two apps, so unlike Travellers Autobarn and Campermate, which are both completely free whether you're on Android or iPhone, the third app that we use is Wikicamps, and it is about £5.
£5, I think it was around $8.
Yeah, around $8.
Although we didn't pay for it.
We were a bit sneaky because we were doing like a month-long trip. We just did a 2-week trial, and then we cleverly did. I started my trial after Darren's had finished. We waited a couple of days, planned ahead slightly, so that we didn't have to pay for it, because $8 is almost the cost. It's like half the price of a bottle of wine, or is also the cost of some of the campsites for the night.
Yeah, but I think if you were doing it for a long period of time, then obviously it would make it worthwhile to pay for it.
You can use all the features in the 2-week free trial. So the reason that we use Wikicamps alongside the other two is we find there are a few more suggestions from locals. We just find there's quite a few more campsites on the Wikicamps one. It's rare that we're struggling to find somewhere, but if we are, we'll usually jump on the Wikicamps app because there is usually a lot more to choose from.
Yep.
Another thing is I think it has been around slightly longer. Might not be, but I just feel like it has because there is so much more reviews, or maybe it's just slightly more well known in Australia. So there is much more reviews, much more photos, which is the thing I always go for. I always judge the campsite by the photos. And I think in comparison to Campermate in the Travellers Autobarn app, there's just far more to choose from. A few more advantages with Wikicamps in comparison to the other ones. There is Wikicamps for not just Australia, there is Wikicamps UK, I think there's Wikicamps New Zealand, there's for pretty much whatever you're going to road trip. Another feature that we prefer with Wikicamps is they have a price setting. So although because the pricing fluctuates with weekends, it fluctuates with public holidays, it is so much easier to see. It's not just one set price, it is almost like to the day. People write reviews, oh today it was this price, oh yesterday it was that price, which is so much easier to budget and plan ahead. Another thing we like with Wikicamps is it's not just campsites. Again, like the other ones that show you public toilets and they show you dumping stations, Wikicamps also shows you points of interest. So even if it's like a nice walkway, if there's like a nice
beach,
hike, beaches, it shows you all that kind of things. There is probably so much more features that we have just not had time to properly explore.
So those are the 3 apps that we would mainly use and recommend in 2019 anyway. Now we're going to mention some other methods that you can use to find some campsites.
So you probably may be aware of this already, but maybe not, but there are so many Facebook groups for backpackers and for travellers in general. So there is one that we use for Australia in general, and it is literally a Facebook group called Australia Backpackers.
Yeah.
But there's one, you can get Backpackers Byron Bay, you can get Backpackers Melbourne, and we feel that sometimes on the apps, if someone's not stayed in a campsite for say since October last year, now it was like February, we're like, well, we don't know if it's a good one or not.
If it's still open, it's
they open and close quite often, especially the free ones. If there's been some issues recently, they close and open all the time. And so on the Facebook groups, we've chucked up a message being like, we're going to head in Great Ocean Road this weekend, has anyone got any personal recommendations? And we feel that way it's much better to have a personal recommendation, and it's people that have stayed there that have stayed there more recently.
So now we go from Facebook to an actual book.
Retro.
So one of the reasons we would recommend the actual book is, well, it came free with the rental from Travellers Autobarn, so which is also very useful. But if your phone runs out of battery and you're not staying at a powered site and you don't have any way to charge your phone or anything, then the last thing you want to be doing is panicking that you can't find a campsite. This book is going to come in handy and it's going to be your lifesaver. So there's wall to walls of campsites here.
Every state, every map,
anywhere you want to be, and even the icons they show on the campsites are very similar to even the ones they've got on the apps. I wouldn't be surprised if Wikicamps was even started from this book. So moving away from books and moving back to technology.
So another method, we're maybe a little bit biased because we're travel bloggers, but we do find looking for a blog that comes from the area has helped so much with campsites. If you simply search top 10 campsites in New South Wales, or if you're looking for ones with the best views, or like
top campsites in Byron Bay, whatever you're looking for.
Coastal campsites and so on, and just search the word blog at the end. At least a blog is a personal recommendation. It is a human at the other side and not some massive company that is just trying to make money, and so their website just just publicises their campsites. It comes from a real human, and so another tip would definitely be look up travel blogs.
Yeah, and they'll probably tell you when they stayed there, how long they stayed for, how much they paid. And slightly related is our last method, slightly related to blogging, as in the personal recommendation side of things, is speaking to locals. So locals know everything about their area usually, even if it's just a case of popping into a cafe to get a coffee. Ask the lady behind the till, does she know where to stay, or just have a conversation with somebody, and sometimes it comes up naturally. Speaking to locals is probably one of the best methods. We've found this actually.
Or we found in Australia especially, they have signs as you enter each town saying RV friendly town, which is so good because you know that then that the locals are accommodating, and so many locals we have met have said, take this route, it's a shortcut, or if you take this road, it's a more scenic road, and they've given us recommendations for campsites that are a bit cheaper. So definitely talking to locals.
Now that we've discussed the kind of methods that you can use to find campsites, whether in Australia, New Zealand, or anywhere else for that matter, we're now going to finish off with some top tips with regards to campsites. So things that we
start with the free campsites, because this is the one that everyone wants. You kind of want a free campsite. Obviously, the most obvious thing is with a free campsite, don't always expect showers. It is so rare that there is showers.
We've only had one free campsite between New Zealand and Australia where there has been showers for free as well.
Hot showers. A couple of them do have cold showers, which also goes hand in hand with flush toilets. But this free campsite had flush toilets, which is gold dust. But usually it is drop toilets, and if you don't know what drop toilets are, do you want to explain?
Basically, they're a massive hole.
It is basically a pit with a normal toilet, and looks like a normal toilet seat, but it
doesn't have water.
Either worms or some sort of compost, and the waste just decomposes naturally. So to be fair, it's better. You usually find them in the national parks and so on. It is more friendly to the environment because you're not wasting water.
Yeah, you're saving water a lot.
But just a little heads up.
They can be a bit smelly, but it's normal. Yeah.
And dark.
Yeah. So pee with a light, with a torch.
Bring a torch.
Bring a torch, yeah. So relating to the wastage of water and to the environment, another thing is a lot of campsites, more so probably New Zealand, but coming into Australia I would say, is self-contained vehicles. So that means you've kind of got to have your own water, your own tanks on board for storing water, and also a portable toilet on board.
If you think, I can chance it, I'll go to this self-contained only free campsite, or just self-contained only any kind of campsite, and you get caught there without the self-contained certification, you will get a pretty hefty fine. Sometimes it can be hundreds of dollars, so it is not worth it.
You don't want that to ruin your trip just for the sake of going somewhere you shouldn't be.
So our final tip, if it is a free campsite, or technically this makes it not free, but quite a few
low cost though.
Quite a few in the local communities are donation boxes. So this works in an honesty system, and we really urge people to stick to this honesty system, because otherwise backpackers get a bad name. Campsites will get closed down if people don't put the money in the box. And to be honest, it's a donation, so it's just a couple of dollars each.
Whatever you have, really.
And that just means that money goes towards soap for the toilets, or tissue paper for the toilets, or just to keep the roads sealed so it's safer for your vans. Or if it is a free campsite, what we usually do, if there's no donation box or the community don't ask for a donation, is just to go to the local cafe, buy a coffee or buy your breakfast in the morning, and that way you're paying back to the community. Paints road trippers in a good light, so that they keep these free campsites open. So
we spoke quite a lot about free campsites and the tips around free campsites. Now we're going to try and give you some insight into a paid campsite. So these can range from anywhere from around $20 up to $50, sometimes $60. But we would never pay as much as that. I would say the average we've paid is probably per night is $30.
$30,
$25 to $30 maybe.
And we're
per night.
travelling at the end of peak season. Well, it's still peak season.
Yeah, we basically started at the end of the school holidays here, so it was starting to get a little bit cheaper. But you obviously get what you pay for. So like a lot of the campsites we've stayed at have had amazing amenities like flush toilets, swimming pools, barbecues, camp kitchen, fully equipped camp kitchens,
Wi-Fi occasionally.
Sometimes Wi-Fi, normally a free allowance of Wi-Fi of some sort, and it's been ideal for what you need really. Showers, hot showers as well.
Power is a main thing.
And power, yeah. So if you need to charge your van, we're in a Travellers Autobarn van, and we need to charge it every couple of days, so we stop at a paid campsite just to make sure that we keep the battery charged up. If you are going to book a campsite, and especially if you have hired through Travellers Autobarn, they do give you this handy little keyring. So this one's for Australia. It's 10% off all Discovery parks and top parks with this keyring. So you just need to turn up, show the keyring, and you'll get 10% off. We got something similar with Travellers Autobarn in New Zealand. It was for all Kiwi parks in New Zealand, and it was a similar deal, so you got 10% off. So those are the 5 methods that we use to find campsites, and also a few tips for you guys on the road if you're going to be doing a road trip.
So you will never be stranded, hopefully, if you use one or all 5 of these tips.
Yeah, and if you guys have any more tips, then leave some comments. We've been Faramagan.